Hey friend, Roger Christopherson here again with another first listen review, and I'm going to be babbling today about an album that I've been eagerly waiting for. Unfortunately, I'm going to be babbling very sickly because I caught this crap that everybody else has had around me, but I just got done listening to this album and I couldn't help but record this anyway because it was pretty darn good. I'm talking about Jethro Tull's new album called Curious Ruminant, and this is their third album in since 22, so I guess that would be within 3 years. Had one in 22, one in 23, and skipped 24, but we're pretty early in 25 that we got this one out. There's a little addition to the band on this one. We have a guy named Jack Clark on guitar, and that's kind of what I've been hearing about the most is the guitar playing on this album. I did take a sneak peek listen to the title track. They released that, I think it was back in January, and I was pretty impressed. I did like the way that sounded, the arrangement of it, the guitar playing on it sounded pretty cool. The band is still Ian Anderson, as always. I mean, this is like his band, pretty much always has been. I know there's a lot of people that say no Martin Barr, no Tull, but he's been out of the band for quite a while. Actually, they kind of just ended, and then Ian did a whole bunch of solo stuff. Even doing Thick as a Brick 2, I think was just under an Ian Anderson name, but decided to do the last three here under the Jethro Tull name, and Martin's just off doing his thing. And I do have to admit, the one thing I did like about that initial song was the guitar playing on it sounded very reminiscent of Martin's sound and style. It's got a little bit of his own flavor going on in there, but I don't know if that was really a super conscious thing on Ian's part to get something that sounded like that, or it just kind of happened. I really don't know the story behind it, but he does have a sound and style very reminiscent of Martin. This album as a whole kind of reminds me of the whole, Heavy Horses, like Stormwatch type era. Those songs, very folksy, a lot of acoustic guitar, a lot of flute. There's a lot of flute on this album, but there's always been flute. But this is kind of like an Ian Anderson flute extravaganza. There's a lot of flute on this album, and the weird thing is there's a lot of accordion on here too, which if you like accordion, that's cool. I don't have anything against accordion. There's a lot of it on here though, maybe more than I would prefer, but it is what it is. It doesn't overpower anything, but it's there a lot. So that's one tiny little thing that maybe I personally don't care for a lot, but the songs themselves are actually pretty good. Starts out with one called Puppet and the Puppet Master, and actually has like a flute solo, guitar, and a organ solo kind of all in the middle of it. That's a pretty cool way to start off a track, or an album with Jethro Tull anyway. I was going to mention the other guys on here. It's got David Goodyear on bass guitar, John O'Hara on piano, keyboards, and the accordion, Scott Hammond on drums, and of course I mentioned Jack Clark on guitar. It also has James Duncan on drums and Cajun percussion, it calls it, and Andrew Giddings, on piano and keyboards and accordion. So there's more accordion there. 9 tracks total, but like I mentioned, the first one, I'd already listened to Curious Ruminant. It was very reminiscent of earlier Tull. I actually really like that song. It's probably one of my favorite ones on the whole album is the title track. You got Dunsany Hill, still one of the rockier ones, a little bit more forgettable than the rest of the album here. Tipu House was pretty good. It's more of a folksy type thing. In fact, this whole album is very folksy. A lot of acoustic guitar, just throughout, like songs. There's a couple little breakdowns here and there where I think it's just not there. And I've listened to it a couple times now, but I'm trying to think back. I think for the most part, a good acoustic guitar is there through the entire song, but there might be a couple instances here and there when it kicks in and rocks a little bit that it goes away. Savannah Paddington Green was kind of cool. Stygian Hand and Over Jerusalem are more mellow, laid-back ones. Still got that accordion going on in there. And these are all fairly shorter tracks. Curious Ruminant was 6 minutes, but the rest of these are 3 to 4 minutes long. Over Jerusalem was actually 5 minutes and 55 seconds. So that one almost as long as Curious Ruminant, but the one that really took the show, stole the show here, I guess, for me was Drink from the Same Well, which is just under 17 minutes long. There's a lot. I mean, if you thought there was a lot of flute before, there's a lot of flute on this one. And even Ian himself says this is some of the best flute playing he's ever done. And I agree. It's the melodies. I didn't even mention, like in Stygian Hand and Over Jerusalem, there's some really nice, flute melodies that are like very, they're repetitive, but they actually really are ear candy. They really grab you and pull you in. And the only thing I noticed a lot that was happening here, and especially on the last song, which is a spoken word song called Interim Sleep, where it's just spoken word, acoustic guitar, and a lot of flute, is there's a lot of flute going on, like, while the singing's happening too. So, I don't know if they were planning on doing this stuff live, if this is like, I don't know, Ian's 77 years old, still kicking out albums, but I don't know how much touring they plan on doing behind this, but a lot of this stuff's obviously not going to be able to be done live completely, because he can't sing and play flute at the exact same time. Listening to it on album's fine. It actually works really well, but if it's something they plan on doing live, I'd be interested in seeing how exactly they plan on doing that. But like I was saying, Drink from the Same Well, I guess it's a song he's been working on for many, many years. And it mainly flows pretty well. A lot of the singing on this song, actually the whole album, Ian's singing style, like way back in the 70s and through the 80s, was very strong and powerful. I don't know if he did something to his voice, blew it out or whatever, but early 90s-ish, I started noticing a lot more laid back. I came into like No Tell. I know I'd heard the songs, Rock Along and all that stuff on the radio, and hits here and there, but I never really dug deep into Tull until I got Catfish Rising, and I got it like on one of those Columbia House deals, and so that's kind of like my introduction to them, and that's kind of right around the time he was starting to change his singing style. And actually this album has a little bit reminiscent of that sound. It's very sparse. There's not a lot of overproduction on this album. It's very there's a lot of space, which I actually like a lot. This is actually a very relaxing. It doesn't, even when it rocks, it doesn't rock too hard. And same with the song. I keep stopping in the middle to describe the song. There's a middle section where it actually gets towards the, I don't know, the 11, 12 minute mark. It kind of like changes tone a little bit. It's a little bit darker. And then the one little nitpicky thing I have is like just after the 13-minute mark, there's a very abrupt change, almost like very forced. Like they didn't know exactly what to do. Like the song just kind of like stops and then it completely changes to the more mellow flute outro type thing, which sounds pleasant enough and it's actually really nice, but just the transition, very abrupt, very harsh, almost like it should have just been a different thing on its own, but that's just my personal opinion, I guess. And that, of course, ends like in that song I was talking about, the Interim Sleep, which is just a spoken word thing. But overall, I mean, Ian's been singing that way for years, and anything you've heard from him, you kind of expect that's the way it's going to be. And the music on this album and the energy of the album kind of matches his vocal style, I think, really well on this one. Actually, of the three, I actually like the last one, Rock Flute, I think is how you pronounce it. I like that one a lot. The Zeologian was okay. I thought that one was a little bit weaker than these two, though. And this one, I probably like this one, even though it's the newest one of the latest three. It really just hit it off with me really good right from the start. It's got a nice, mellow, folksy, progressive feel to it. Actually, as I just like the way it sounded. It's kind of very consistent through the whole thing. It's got some ebbs and flows here and there, but it never really goes too crazy out of the feel of from beginning to end. So anyway, that's my quick little take on it. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure I'll be listening to this one quite a bit more. Love Tull. I mean, it's hard for me to listen to anything and think that's something I'm ever going to dislike. So I'm a little bit, I don't want to say not jaded at all, but maybe influenced by my opinions of what I thought it was going to be ahead of time. And it kind of met what I thought it was going to be, and I'm very, very happy with it. So anyway, anybody else there has anything they want to share? I can't believe I made it through this whole thing without hacking and coughing too much, but luckily I did. And as always, I ask you to like, share, and subscribe, keep this music alive, because at this rate, we're going to get another one in, end of 26. So I wouldn't mind that at all. So until then, we'll see you.